everyone, it's Ricky, and welcome to another episode of Bonnie's World. In today's episode, what I'd like to do is take a look at the research menu. In our previous episode, we had a look at the build menu, and although I was considering examining the menus by quadrant, it makes a lot of sense to discuss the research menu now because it affects your build menu so much. So, if you understand how the research menu works, what it does, what it can do for you, then you will also have a better understanding of the build menu and you'll pretty much know where to go to find the things that you think you need to be building next. What you actually need to build next is a whole other topic, and we, of course, can get into that if you'd like, but any information that I give you in that regard is basically just going to be my opinion on what I think is the best way to approach things. So take that sort of recommendation with a grain of salt. But my intention with showing you guys the research menu is to give you and to give Bonnie this overview of how the menu works and how it relates to your build menu, so that if you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I need to get farms up, how do I do that? Well, you kind of know how to get into the research menu and what to be looking for in order to answer that question for yourself. So, without any further ado, let's get going and have a look at this menu. So, your research tree is going to provide you with a lot of information, and you can zoom in and out using your mouse scroll wheel so you can get an overview of what the tree looks like. This is how I learned a lot about building, and it's very similar to research trees you may have seen in other games. For example, that very famous research tree from the game that Sid Meier's does. If y'all know the one I'm talking about, then you'll recognize this kind of mechanism. This particular tree is set up into various different categories, and a lot of these match or have equivalents to your build menu. So, for example, food, power, solid material, colony development, medicine, liquids, gases, and then we start getting into specific high-tech stuff, exosuits, decor, computers, and rocketry. And each of these has a tree-like structure because prerequisites must be met for certain things to be built. So for example, if I zoom into food here, you can see this category is basic farming, and there is a bar between basic farming and meal preparation, which indicates that you need basic farming before meal preparation can happen. Then meal preparation splits off into agriculture and into ranching. This is farming, and this is raising critters for food. And each of these has a prerequisite. So you need basic meal prep in order to get ranching, and you need ranching in order to get animal control. But you also need agriculture in order to get animal control. And that's because many of your animals will eat organic farmed foods in order for you to be able to ranch them. And then there's also, in some of these cases, prerequisites and types of materials. So, like, you'll develop this technology, but you won't be able to use the incubator until you have refined metals, which is in a separate location on the tree. So, it's just organizing and categorizing that particular branch. Although there is some crossover. So, for example, if I go down here, you'll see solid transit. Solid transit requires you to go through this area of the colony development tree, but you also have to go through this area of the power tree, because without power, solid transit doesn't work. So there's certain things that you want to look for and you want to be aware of. You want to kind of get familiar with general categories. If you are looking for something specific, like for example, you have a carbon dioxide problem and you don't know what to do about it, you can click here in the filter area, type in carbon, and it will show you anything having to do with carbon. So, for example, um, the carbon skimmer will show up. And then you can look at the carbon skimmer where it is on your research tree. It's down here in decontamination. You can zoom out then and figure out it's here in gases. And then if you click on it, you want to make sure you clear your filter so these categories stop being black. When you click on it, it will show you what's required. In this case, you need ventilation and you need pressure management in order to get to decontamination. Now, another thing you may have noticed, which might be confusing you, is that many of these topics have a single bar at the bottom. This is a measurement of how much research you have done in this particular category, because you can actually click plumbing and start plumbing, and then in the middle of this click and change to, say, something else, pharmacology, and your duplicate will stop working on plumbing and move to pharmacology, but you will not lose the progress you've made. This bar will still show the amount of progress that you have. As you get further into the research tree, you will notice that some of these have two bars. The single bar represents novice research, and as it says, when you hover over it, it requires a research station for you to conduct this research. As your colony develops and your research gets more detailed, you now will need to also have a supercomputer, and your duplicate will need to do both novice and advanced research in order to unlock these greater technologies. So, things to take away: know your categories. Food is, of course, going to be agriculture, critter management, and meal prep. Power is going to be power generation, regulation, and management. Solid material is going to be processing your metals, processing your ores. It's going to be where you manage your shipping and supplying. And certain sensors are going to be set up by categories. So, for example, your solid material sensors are under solid materials. Your liquid material sensors are here under liquids, and your gas material sensors are here under gas. But sensors are not available until you get into computers, and some of them are also here. There's a liquid and a gas element sensor in under computers. So that can be a little confusing. Just know some of your sensors are under computers, some of them are under the element that you might be looking for. But by and large, solid material is about managing your solid material, and it includes things like being able to build bunker doors to prevent your colony from taking damage from asteroids, which is a thing. Colony development is kind of like your general stuff. So you have stuff for recreation, like your water cooler. You have the crafting station here. This is where your advanced research capability comes from. Your supercomputer is also in this category. So you want to be aware of that, because you're going to need to get that up and running pretty early in the game. Medicine is, of course, medicine, and there's a few medical sensors that look for germs here. This is where you're going to be able to make medicines and build stations to help you heal other duplicates. Liquids is a pretty vast subject, so this includes your plumbing, your toiletry, your sanitation, as well as things like your electrolyzer, which takes water and turns it into hydrogen and oxygen, which is another way of producing oxygen for your colony. You've also gotten here an ore scrubber, which is a cleaning mechanism. So plumbing covers a lot of different things, as well as there's some recreation here. The mechanical surfboard uses water, and it's something you can build for your duplicates that they find amusing. All right, moving along. Gases is, of course, gases, gas management, gas element sensors, and this hooks into things like the exosuit, which crosses into decor because carpentry and fiber are part of decor. So the atmosuit is actually at the conjunction of gases and decor. a little odd. But there you have it. And this is also, I'm not sure why, where you're going to find your transit tubes. It's part of the exosuit tree, maybe because, you can make transit tubes into areas where there's no breathable air, so you're going to need to wear an exosuit in order to do that. Not entirely sure, but that's where the logic leads you. There's some other things here like blasters and other weapons. Again, you'll be wearing an exosuit while using those, so maybe that's why they're there. Decor, of course, covers things like decorative plants. Lighting is considered decor because your duplicants like lit areas. There's also sculpting blocks and crown molding and carpentry, different ladders and beds here. So basic quality of life improvements and things that they like to look at are going to be here, and that's going to help keep your duplicants mood high. So this is kind of something you want to be aware of. And then, of course, you've got computers, and computers require all different kinds of things, signal switching and other types of research. And this is how you're going to be able to automate your base. So you build a shipping containment area, you set it up so that all of your materials go to the containment area, and then you use different switches to tell your auto sweepers where to put your solid materials. Or another use of automation is you build a smart battery and you hook it up to a coal generator and you use an automation wire to connect them. And now that smart battery turns your coal generator on and off when it's full. Otherwise, your coal generator will run continuously and waste lots of energy. Various different things that you can do with switches and computers. And of course, that leads into rocketry, and rocketry is how you get off the planet. And if you hover here, and I can't unfortunately zoom out any further, you can see rocketry has branches leading from other areas up the tree. So lots of prerequisites to get to rocketry. You can, of course, filter your search results. You can search by category. Their categories, of course, on this side match the categories in the tree. But personally, I only use this when I know what I'm looking for. This is what I use to kind of learn the framework, learn what's possible. Oh, look, there's a plastic bed here, for example, and this comfy bed gives my duplicants morale. And I know that I need the comfy bed in order to make a private bedroom for them, which is a morale boosting room. So everything ties together, and becoming familiar with this research tree becomes important. So that's about it for the research tree, really. There's not much else to discuss, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. I'll try to get back to them as soon as possible. Give me a like and a thumbs up if you thought this video was helpful at all. And what we're going to do in the next video is finish up the UI so we can get back to playing. I hate to take, too much time away from the actual playtime, but it just seemed important to kind of explain to you how I was navigating around and why. And mentioning all of that earlier rather than later seemed to be a better idea. So, I will talk to you guys soon, and I hope you all take care. Thanks for watching.